everybody. This one is about the Central Intelligence Agency equals the Roman cult. References, copies of these documents can be found in my private group called at Yahoo called Administrating Your Public Servants. I have YouTube videos of private information shares that show these and other court citations that are available for a donation, and donations to support this work are appreciated. I prefer gold or silver coin, but as an extremely less desirable alternative, I can accept the IOUs, the commercial paper, the Federal Reserve notes, the PayPal gifts, checks, money orders, etc. Send me an email for particulars. Anyways, this is actually taken from a Catholic website, altea.org, Worldwide Catholic Network, sharing faith resources for those seeking truth. And this is an article written by Deacon Greg Kandra. Why is the CIA called the Catholic Intelligence Agency? It's taken from the Catholic Herald. It says, the CIA is the best known of the 17 agencies that comprise the American intelligence community. It has earned itself nicknames like Catholic Intelligence Agency and Catholics in Action. It's worth exploring why. And so I just find it kind of interesting. It says, and if you go a couple paragraphs down, it says, by contrast, well, actually, let's just start at the top. No official statistics exist on Catholics in the CIA or any other American intelligence agency, but one interesting clue is the relatively high number of Catholics who have served as director of the agency. The United States is a country in which, with the recent exception of the Supreme Court, Catholics have never dominated the highest offices. Only one out of 44 U.S. presidents has been Catholic. The first and only Catholic vice president is the current one, Joe Biden. Before John Kerry, the last Catholic Secretary of State was Alexander Haig, who left the post in 1982. Catholics are a rarity in other top positions, such as Secretary of Defense. By contrast, 3 out of the last 5 CIA directors have been Catholic: Michael Hayden, Leon Panetta, and the current director, John Brennan. Looking back, a number of Catholics led the agency in critical periods during the Cold War. There were no Catholic directors in the 1990s. Some of the most influential directors in CIA history have been Catholic. Men such as Walter Bedell Smith, John McCone, William Colby, William Casey. They are not just casual Catholics. They were devout mass goers, in many cases members of groups like the Knights of Malta. The conspiracy theorists usually start there with nefarious plots about the Vatican steering world affairs. Of course, they never ask why an all-powerful Vatican can't engineer more Catholic presidents. So, anyways, it's interesting, and I want to say here that I don't particularly care what your religious background is, if you're in the CIA or other organization, but the biggest problem I have is that Jesuits are Catholic, and Jesuits are well known to be Satanists as well. And they currently have a Jesuit Pope. And so and we're going to get into the Jesuit oath. I mean, all of that stuff we're going to be talking about in this presentation. Anyways, this same article goes on, and it says, why is the Catholic, and the summary, Deacon Greg Kandra is a Roman Catholic deacon in the Diocese of Brooklyn, New York. For nearly 3 decades, he's a writer and producer for CBS News, where he contributed to a variety of programs and was honored with every major award in broadcasting. Deacon Greg now serves as multimedia editor for Catholic Near East Welfare Association. He and his wife live in Forest Hills, New York. Anyway, so... and then there's this Catholic Herald. Why Catholics thrive in the CIA. And this is the agency has been dubbed Catholics in Action because the faithful have occupied so many senior positions, but could their dominance be weakening? And so just to go through some of the highlighted areas, but we shouldn't ignore the topic. The CIA is the best known of the 17 agencies that comprise the American intelligence community. It has earned itself nicknames like Catholic Intelligence Agency and Catholics in Action. It's worth exploring why. It basically says a lot of the stuff that article talks about. Well, let's start at the top. It says, in just a few days after Christmas 1988, terrorists blew up Pan Am Flight 103 as it passed over Lockerbie. Not long after leaving Heathrow, one of the 259 murdered on board was Matthew Gannon. The eighth child of devout Catholic parents, Gannon had joined the Central Intelligence Agency in 1977, becoming a skilled operations officer and linguist. Nearly a year later, in October 1989, many victims' belongings still lay unclaimed in trailers in Lockerbie. When Gannon's brother arrived there, he identified his family members' personal items by spotting a missile in a bag with one of Matthew's favorite shirts. Anyways, it goes on. It says basically the same thing that the other one said. If you go to the bottom, it says that changed the office. It says here. Let's go down to the the fourth paragraph from the bottom. By contrast, 3 of the last CIA directors have been Catholic Michael Hayden, Leon Panetta, and the current director John Brennan. Looking back, a number of Catholics led the agency in critical periods during the Cold War. Some of the most influential directors have been Catholics, such as, and it basically is saying the same thing. And then the next paragraph, to make sense of Catholics in the CIA, you have to go back to the 1940s, before the agency even existed. Until that decade, the United States did not have a unified intelligence system. Separate branches of the military collected and analyzed their own intelligence. That changed the office with the Office of Strategic Services. This was the CIA's predecessor, responsible for espionage and sabotage during operations during World War II. The OSS was founded and led by General William J. Donovan, whom history knows as Wild Bill. Okay, and then we're talking about this another article in Mother Jones. This is a CIA and Vatican's intelligence apparatus in Mother Jones, which is another Catholic publication. One day in July 1944, as the Second World War raged throughout Europe, General William Wild Bill Donovan was ushered into an ornate chamber in Vatican City for an audience with Pope Pius XII. Donovan bowed his head reverently as the pontiff intoned a ceremonial prayer in Latin and decorated him with the cross, the Grand Cross of the Order of Saint Sylvester, the oldest and most prestigious of papal knighthoods. This award has been given to only 100 other men in history who, by feat of arms or writings or outstanding deeds, have spread the faith and have safeguarded and championed the church. Although a papal citation of this sort rarely, if ever, states why a person is inducted into the Golden Militia, there can be no doubt that Donovan entered or earned his knighthood by virtue of the services he rendered to the Catholic hierarchy in World War II, during which he served as the Chief of Office of Strategic Services, the wartime predecessor of the Central Intelligence Agency. In 1941, the year before the OSS was officially constituted, Donovan formed a close alliance with Father Felix Morleon, founder of the European Catholic Intelligence Service known as Prodeo. When Germans overran Western Europe, Donovan helped Morleon move his base of operations from Lisbon to New York. From then on, Prodeo was financed by Donovan, who believed that such an expenditure would result in valuable insight into the secret affairs of the Vatican, then a neutral enclave in the midst of fascist Rome. When the Allies liberated Rome in 1944, Morleon reestablished his spy network in the Vatican. From there, he helped the OSS obtain confidential reports provided by the apostolic delegates in the Far East, which included information about the strategic bombing targets in Japan. Pope Pius's decoration of Wild Bill Donovan marked the beginning of a long-standing intimate relationship between the Vatican and U.S. intelligence that continues to the present day. For centuries, the Vatican has been the prime target of foreign espionage, one of the world's greatest repositories of raw intelligence. It is the spy's goldmine. Ecclesiastical, political, and economic information filters in every day from thousands of priests, bishops, and papal nuncios who report regularly from every corner of the globe to the office of the Papal Secretariat. So rich was this source of data that shortly after the war, the CIA created a special unit in its counterintelligence section to tap it and monitor developments within the Holy See. But the CIA's interest in the Catholic Church was not limited to intelligence gathering. The Vatican, with its immense wealth and political influence, was in recent years become a key force in global politics, particularly with Catholicism playing such a pivotal role in Eastern Europe and Latin America. Unbeknownst to most Catholics, the Vatican, which carefully maintains an apolitical image, not only has a foreign office and a diplomatic corps, but also a foreign policy. And with Polish communists embracing Catholicism and Latin American Catholics embracing communism, the U.S. government, and particularly the CIA, have recently taken much greater interest in Vatican foreign policy. A year-long Mother Jones investigation has revealed a number of unlikely channels, both overt and covert, which the agency uses to bring its influence to bear upon that policy. Since World War II, the CIA has subsidized a Catholic lay organization that served as the political slugging arm of the Pope and the Vatican throughout the Cold War, penetrated the American section of one of the wealthiest and most powerful Vatican orders, passed money to a large number of priests and bishops, some of whom became witting agents in CIA covert operations, employed undercover operatives to lobby members of the Curia and spy on liberal churchmen in the Pope's staff who challenged the political assumptions of the United States, prepared intelligence briefings that accurately predicted the rise of liberation theology, and collaborated with right-wing Catholic groups to counter the actions of progressive clerics in Latin America. It was in this last regard that the CIA supported factions with the Catholic Church, within the Catholic Church, that were instrumental in promoting and electing the current Pope John Paul II. Okay, so this article is like from the 70s, I guess. Whose Polish nationalism and anti-communist credentials they thought would make him a perfect vehicle for U.S. foreign policy. Anyways, so it goes on. This is actually a 17-page or 19-page article. We're not going to read the whole thing. I mean, that would get a little old. I'm just going to go through some highlighted things that I thought might be of interest. It talks about Casey and Haig are both members of the Knights of Malta, a legendary Vatican order dating back to the Crusades, when the warrior monks served as the military arm of the Catholic Church. So Casey was the director of the CIA. Alexander Haig was the Secretary of State. The Knights and their latter-day incarnation as the sovereign military order of Malta are a historical anomaly. Although the order has no landmass other than a small headquarters in Rome, this unique papal entity holds the status of nation-state. It mints coins, prints stamps, has its own constitution, and issues license plates and passports to an accredited diplomatic corps. The Grand Master of the order, Fra Angelo de whatever that name is, holds a rank in the church equal to a cardinal and is recognized as a sovereign chief of state by 41 nations, with which the Knights of Malta, Sovereign Military Order of Malta, SMOM, exchanges ambassadors. And then if you go down to the highlighted area in the bottom, but the needy and aided by certain SMOM members in the late 40s were some of the 50,000 Nazi war criminals who, with the assistance of the International Red Cross, were furnished with fake Vatican passports and in some cases clerical robes, and were smuggled on Bishop Alois Hudal's Underground Railroad to South America. Among those was Klaus Barbie, the Butcher of Lyon. And it goes on. In 1948, the SMOM became one of the highest awards of honor. The Grand, to General Reinhard Gehlen of Adolf Hitler's chief anti-Soviet spy. Only 3 other people achieved this award. Gehlen was not a Catholic who was not a Catholic, was touted as a formidable ally in the Holy Crusade against godless Marxism. After the war, he and his well-developed spy apparatus, staffed largely by ex-Nazis, joined the fledgling CIA. Eventually, hundreds more Nazis ended up in the U.S. government's payroll. Among them was Klaus Barbie. The CIA very early on made a decision that Nazis were more valuable as allies and agents than as war criminals, says Victor Marchetti, an ex-CIA officer who was raised a Catholic. Marchetti is disturbed by the role of the CIA in his church in perpetuating the Nazi outrage. It gets a little crazy, he said, when you let one thing, anti-communism, take over to the extent that you forgive everything else. The SMOM had given a different prestigious award in 1946 to another high-level CIA operative, James Jesus Angleton. It had to do with counterintelligence. Angleton told Mother Jones, when asked why he was chosen for such a distinction, during World War II, Angleton was head of the Rome station of the OSS. Later, on his return to Washington, he ran what was tantamount to the Vatican desk of the CIA. According to Angleton, the agency does not have a Vatican desk, nor does it have an Israel desk, for that matter, yet Angleton also covered that area. The extreme sensitivity associated with Israel and the Vatican required that work relating to them be buried among Angleton's counterintelligence staff, which was well suited for such assignments. During the early years of the Cold War, Angleton organized an elaborate spy network that enabled the CIA to obtain intelligence reports sent to the Vatican by papal nuncios stationed behind the Iron Curtain and other denied areas. This was, at the time, one of the few means available to the CIA of penetrating the Eastern Bloc. There's a couple more things I want to point out here. Oh, I think that's the end of that, right? And so, obviously, the Vatican is tied in closely. Chinese Catholics fear Pope Francis will rat them out to the communists. Catholics run underground churches in China, says Francis, will sell them out. A Chinese cardinal has urged Pope Francis not to sacrifice the underground practitioners of Catholicism in order to make a deal with the communist government. China, we are very much worried because it seems the Vatican is going to make a very bad agreement with China, okay, and that's that Cardinal Zen. So, and now a little diversion. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to click the bell next to the subscribe button so that you're notified when there's a new upload. There's my front page of the channel, and there's the bell next to the subscribe button. If you click that, a pop-up will come up and give you the opportunity to check a box and be notified about any recent new videos that are published. Former CIA analyst Obama gave the green light for NSA and CIA to sabotage Trump. And this is a recent article, like yesterday. It was on Alex Jones' InfoWars, actually. So for anybody that, they need to know that. Clapper and Brenham, all intimately involved in a plot to derail Trump's candidacy. Former CIA analyst Larry C. Johnson says that, according to his sources, the Obama administration worked with the NSA, the CIA, and Britain's GCHQ to disseminate information about Donald Trump that was illegally obtained via surveillance before the election. Johnson joined the CIA in 1985 and was later promoted to become senior regional analyst for Central America before moving on to work for the State Department. The former CIA analyst told RT that the controversy was a huge deal and that Trump's only real mistake was to call it a wiretap, which was technically inaccurate, and that those who have denied the charges on behalf of Obama are using semantics to fool the public. I understand from very good friends that both Jim Clapper and John Brennan at CIA were intimately involved in trying to derail the candidacy of Donald Trump, that there was some collusion overseas with Britain's own GHCQ, explained Johnson. That information on Trump gathered by GCHQ was passed to Brennan and illegally disseminated with the Obama administration, with the green light coming from Obama himself. Donald Trump is in essence correct that the intelligence agency and some of the law enforcement community on the side of the FBI were in fact illegally trying to monitor his communications with his aides and with other people, all of this with an end to trying to destroy and discredit his presidency. According to Johnson, Rogers visited Trump's tower in order to cover himself because he knew the NSA had been used to spy on Trump. This is a genuine effort to take out and defeat Donald Trump, even in the aftermath of his election, said Johnson, calling for the senior executives behind the plot within the NSA and CIA to be fired. According to the CIA analyst, there was a coordinated, organized effort on behalf of Obama and his allies to sabotage Trump, and some within that camp even thought they could prevent him from taking the oath of office by releasing the infamous Pissgate dossier. What they're doing, I think, would fall under the definition of sedition, he added. Some point out the irony of the mainstream media affording credibility to Clapper's statements, given that he lied under oath about domestic surveillance during his 2013 testimony in front of Congress. Well, it's obvious the mainstream media will help you cover up your crimes and use your lies against someone else. They do it all the time. Anyways, here's another article. YourNewsWire.com, former newspaper editor who exposed the CIA is found dead. Okay, so these Satanists don't have any compulsion about murdering people. We already know that. Former editor of the largest newspaper in Germany revealed the CIA pays journalists in Germany, France, Britain, Australia, and New Zealand to plant fake stories, and the CIA is trying to bring war to Russia. And this is actually posted on January 15, 2017. And I remember seeing this guy's YouTube video. Is probably still available on YouTube. Dr. Udo Ufkott, the former German newspaper editor whose best-selling book exposed how the CIA controls German media, has been found dead. How convenient. He was 56 years old. Ufkott was an editor of Frankfurter a magazine, one of the largest newspapers in Germany, when he published Bot Journalists, the best-selling book that cost him his job and perhaps his life. German media, who were banned from reporting on his work in recent years, are reporting he died of heart failure. Acknowledging that his life was under threat, he explained that he was in a better position than most journalists to expose the truth because he didn't have any children who could be threatened. And so, this guy went and basically gave his life to bring the truth out. So we have a special duty to make sure and get this exposed. Speaking to the Russian newspaper, Russian Insider, he said, when I told Frankfurter, when they told the newspaper that I would publish the book, their lawyers sent me a letter threatening with all legal consequences if I would publish any names or secrets. But I don't mind. You see, I don't have children to take care of. His fears for a war in Europe led to his decision to tell the truth about corporate media being controlled by intelligence services on behalf of the financial class. I've been a journalist for about 25 years, and I've been educated to lie, to betray, and not to tell the truth to the public. He told Russia Today, I was supported by the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. Why? Because I'm pro-American. The German and American media tries to bring war to the people in Europe, to bring war to Russia. This is a point of no return. I'm going to stand up and say it is not right what I have done in the past to manipulate people to make propaganda against Russia. He said most important media journalists in the United States and Europe are so-called non-official cover, meaning they work for an intelligence agency. I think that is especially the case with British journalists because they have a much closer relationship. It is especially the case with Israeli journalists, of course with French journalists. It is the case for Australians, with journalists from New Zealand and from Taiwan, as well as many other countries. His book, Bot Journalists, became a bestseller in Germany, but in a bizarre twist, which he says characterizes the disconnect caused by CIA control of the Western media. The book cannot be reported on by the German press. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so they're just over it about it. They don't care. No German mainstream journalist is allowed to report about my book, otherwise he or she will be sacked. So we have a bestseller now that no German journalist is allowed to write or talk about. Isn't that interesting? This is a point of no return. I'm going to stand up and say it is not right what I've done in the past to manipulate people and make propaganda against Russia. It is not right that my colleagues do and have done in the past because they are bribed to betray the people not only of Germany, all over Europe. I am very fearful of a new war in Europe. I don't like to have this situation again because war is never coming from itself. There's always people who push for war, and that is not only politicians, it is journalists too. We have betrayed our readers just to push for war. I don't want this anymore. I'm fed up with this propaganda. I live in a banana republic and not in a democratic country where we have press freedom. So, again, this is all about Satanism, okay? These people are Satanists. And Albert Pike, this goes back to Albert Pike. He was a prominent Luciferian. Remember, they're trying to start war in Europe, okay? That's World War III. And Albert Pike, a prominent Luciferian and Masonic leader, he was a Confederate general, so, I mean, that's Civil War era, wrote Morals and Dogma. He predicted 3 world wars. He talked about consolidating the entire planet, people, places, and things into the hands of one entity, which is sometimes referred to as the Antichrist, or the god of Freemasonry and Illuminati, Lucifer and Satan. And that's found in Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike, page 321. World War I and World War II happened exactly as predicted, and we're now building up for World War III as predicted by Albert Pike. And this journalist here was trying to put a stop to it. There's 2 levels of Masons. The first level goes to the 33rd degree. The second level is only available to the European aristocracy. There's been a Masonic influence in America from the beginning. Some say that the Roman cult influence has also been here from the beginning. See the book Rulers of Evil by Tupper Saucy, a very good book. I read that. And and I know about the 2 levels of Masons because I worked for on one of my contracts for a company out of Ireland called Short Brothers. And so I met a bunch of guys from Ireland, and they told me about the 2 levels of Masons in Europe and stuff like that. And so, and this is about the Nazi SS, okay? The Nazi SS stands for Knights of Cetus Seclorum, Knights of the Holy See. It was, the first leader was Reichsfuhrer Himmler, okay? And it was headquartered in Berlin and to 1945, and in 1945 it moves to Washington, D.C., and it's called the Secret Service in Washington, D.C. The Nazi SS, also known as SS, a shortened name for Knights of the Holy See, is a Roman Catholic spiritual and military order first formed in 1933, based completely upon the Jesuit order structure, upon the signing of the Sacred Reich Concordat. Remember the Concordat of 1933 that talked about military uniforms? Being anybody with a military uniform is an agent of the Roman cult. Specifically through Articles 1, 12, 15, 21, 33, with the enactment of the Clause C of the Sacred Supplement of the Concordat between Franz von Papen on behalf of Nazi Germany and Cardinal Eugenio Pacelli on behalf of the Pope. The term Nazi was first publicly used in the rebanded name of the National Socialist Germany Workers' Party in 1933 upon devout Catholic leader known as Father Führer Adolf Hitler assuming office as a German Chancellor. Okay, so again, this is all the Roman cult. Himmler was, Hitler was Catholic, and so was his buddies. And, and here it is closer. So the Department of Homeland Security is a subsidiary of the Secret Service. There's a Secret Service in the United Kingdom. Why should that be a surprise? Because it's all the same company. The Secret Service is a subsidiary of the Treasury Department. The Treasury Department's owned by the International Monetary Fund. International Monetary Fund's owned by the World Bank. The World Bank is owned by the United Nations. The United Nations owned by the Crown of England. And the Crown of England's owned by the Roman cult. And this is concessions of England to the Pope, 1213. We will establish a perpetual obligation and concession. We will establish that from the proper and special revenues of our aforesaid kingdoms and from all service and customs which we ought to render for them, saving in all things the penny of St. Peter. The Roman Church shall receive yearly 1,000 marks sterling, namely at the Feast of St. Michael's 500 marks and at Easter 500 marks, and 700 for the Kingdom of England and 300 for Ireland. And so, again, this is all tied into the Roman cult. After the concessions of England to the Pope, 1213 was signed, King John had to make money to pay his tribute. King John imposed martial law rules, started to do things to raise money to pay his tribute. It took only 2 years for the people to figure out what was happening, and the Magna Carta was the result. So this is all tied into the Roman cult. The Magna Carta is not a unilateral act emanating solely for the spontaneous will of the king, as the charters of the predecessors of John. Neither is it a treaty, for we cannot say it was concluded between two legitimate and independent sovereignties, nor between two nations, nor is it a law. The barons do not appear in it as subjects, for they are freed from their promise of fidelity, and the king, brought captive, placed before them, submitted to the conditions which the conquerors imposed upon him. Magna Carta is therefore a contract, but resembles a treaty concluded between two nations, in that one of the parties, in virtue of the law of war, can impose its will on the other. And that's Perlman versus Piget, an Attorney General of Canada, reference habeas corpus. That's a Canadian court case, Quebec. So Magna Carta is similar to a treaty. After the War of Independence, the Treaty of Paris was signed. These Satanists have no intention of abiding by their treaties. These Satanists are imposing perpetual warfare, and their so-called treaties mean absolutely nothing. The treaty gives them an opportunity to regroup and come back around another way. And now another little diversion. Announcing a subscription-based YouTube channel called Sovereignty International. The recommended cost of the subscription is currently $1.99 a month, because it avoids the advertising only. When I first set up this channel, I was planning on having some exclusive content, but after thinking about it, my agenda, the only power these New World Order Satanists have over us, is through fraud and deception, and my agenda is to expose it. And so for that reason, I can't think of anything that I want to have on there exclusively. I do have an Arlington private information share, and I may have something on there in the future exclusively. But the only thing I can guarantee is it won't have any advertising. If you want to make a donation, I mean, that's a great way to make a donation. It's modest, there's no doubt about it, but every little bit helps, and you get a bunch of people chipping in a modest donation, and it adds up. So I'm currently publishing 5 videos a week. Some people had trouble finding the channel, and so I have a link down at the bottom as well. And I've got a link at the top of this page, and I have an arrow pointing at the start free trial button, because somebody sent me a donation for $1.99, at least I guess it turned out to be. I didn't know if they wanted me to sign them up or something, and I sent them an email and they haven't responded, so I'm guessing that it was a donation. But if you want me to sign you up, I can't. I have absolutely no control over people that sign up for this. I can't even see all the subscribers. I can see some of them, but I can't see them all. So if you want to subscribe, you're going to have to click on that Start Free Trial button and do what YouTube wants you to do. They're probably going to collect payment arrangements or who knows what. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. Under the international law of warfare, all parties to a cause must appear by nom de guerre, because an alien enemy cannot maintain an action during the war in his own name. And a mixed war is one which is made on one side by public authority and on the other by mere private persons. Okay, so court cases, it's all warfare. Everything is warfare. It's all coming from the Roman cult. And there you have the Roman cult, the pimp, or I should say the Pope Francis, kissing Nelson Rockefeller's hand. Okay, and so you have Pope Francis was found guilty of child trafficking, rape, and murder. The International Tribunal for ITCCS, it's a common law court. Yesterday, defendants Pope Francis Bergoglio, Catholic Jesuit Superior Adolfo Pachon, and Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, were found guilty of rape, torture, murder, and trafficking of children. 5 justices in the International Common Law Court of Justice in Brussels determined that the crimes occurred as recently as 2010. Since last March, over 48 eyewitnesses, okay, so it's not just a couple people are coming out and saying this thing, have come forward to testify. The Ninth Circle Satanic Cult was said to do child sacrifices at Roman Catholic cathedrals in Montreal, New York, Rome, Scotland, London, Carnarvon Castle in Wales, an undisclosed French chateau in Holland, and a Canadian Catholic and Anglican Indian school residential schools in Kamloops, British Columbia, and Brantford, Ontario. The Ninth Circle Satanic Cult sacrifice cult was believed to use privately owned forest groves in U.S., Canada, France, Holland for their human hunting parties for global elites, including members of the European royals, teens, children's were said, teens, royal families. Teens were said to be obtained by the mafia, then stripped naked, raped, hunted down, and killed. The chief prosecutor stated the Catholic Church was the world's largest corporation and it appears to be in collusion with the mafia, governments, police, and courts worldwide. 2 adolescent women told the court that Pope Francis raped them while participating in child sacrifices. 8 other eyewitnesses confirmed their allegations of being witness to rape and child sacrifices. The Ninth Circle Satanic Cult were said to take place during the springs of 2009 and 2010 in rural Holland and Belgium. Last month, an investigator for the Irish Garda police force testified that before the 5 judges and 27 jury members, that marks on the bones of nearly 796 children found in an Irish Catholic nun septic tank indicated that they had been ritually killed. Witnesses testified that forensic experts had confirmed the decapitation and dismemberment of the babies in a mass grave resembled the usual signs of ritualistic murder and child sacrifice. And, you know, this is just an absolute abomination, and the CIA is tied in. In the 1990s, Father Malachi Martin, a Catholic monk, was on a Coast to Coast AM talk radio program with Art Bell, and he said at that time that the Vatican was taken over by Lucifer in 1955. Father Malachi Martin died shortly thereafter under mysterious circumstances. Pope Francis was previously the Jesuit General Black Pope. Pope Francis is not now talking about a one-world religion. And there's his picture with his smug little smile. Pope claims you're not Christian if you own a gun. Yeah, I'll bet he does. His color is black, the color of the Jesuit order, which seems to dominate the world economy for the Antichrist through the following front organizations. And so you have the Jesuits, and they are over top of the Illuminati, the CFR, the international bankers, the mafia, and the Club of Rome, the Opus Dei, the Masons, and the New Age movement. The Catholic Church is the biggest financial power, wealth accumulator, and property owner in existence. She's the greatest possessor of material riches than any other single institution, corporation, bank, giant, trust, government, or state of the whole globe. The Pope, as the visible ruler of this immense amassment of wealth, is consequently the richest individual in the 20th century. No one can realistically assess how much he is worth in terms of billions of dollars. It's probably trillions. And that's taken from a book called The Vatican Billions by Avro Manhattan. We're going to talk a little bit more about Avro Manhattan shortly. And now another little diversion. My blog is sovereigntyinternational.wordpress.com. My website is sovereigntyinternational.fyi. My email address is engineerwin@yahoo. My YouTube profiles, I've got 2 of them, Sovereign Living and Sovereignty International. My Facebook community page, I deleted it due to censorship on the part of Facebook. My private group, Sovereignty International, is being deleted. My Yahoo private group, Administrating Your Public Servants. My Google private group is called Administrating Your Public Servants. And follow me on Twitter at EngineerWin. And this is Pope Francis's warrant that was issued by the International Common Law Court. And there it is up close, Bergoglio, that's his real name. And this is the Queen Elizabeth's warrant, Queen Elizabeth Alexandra Mary. And this is Obama's warrant. Okay, so there's also Stephen Harper's warrant. So they're all involved in this stuff. Another little diversion. CubeYard.com. For great custom websites, domain names, and hostings, go to CubeYard.com. Use coupon code CY172 for 20% off your first order. CubeYard.com, your source for websites, domain names, and hosting. And now we're going to talk a little bit about Avro Manhattan. And this is a book called The Vatican's Holocaust, another book. The sensational account of the most horrifying religious massacre of the 20th century. By Avro Manhattan, who was a Knight of Malta. Avro Manhattan was the world's foremost authority, and this is like a real good point to make right now, is that not all Catholics are bad. Matter of fact, most of them are honorable, good and honorable people. The Roman cult does exist, but most Catholics are just good and honorable people. Some of my best friends happen to be Catholic, and they're feeding me this information. And so Just because you're Catholic, I mean, that's certainly, it's not to be a reflection on people that happen to be Catholic, for sure. Anyways, back to Avro Manhattan. Avro Manhattan is the world's foremost authority on Roman Catholicism and politics. A resident of London during World War II, he operated a radio station called Radio Freedom, broadcasting to occupied Europe. He was the author of over 20 books, including the bestseller The Vatican and World Politics, twice Book of the Month, and going through 57 editions. Okay, so he has written a bunch of books. He was a Great Britain who risked his life daily to expose some of the darkest secrets of the papacy. His books were #1 on the Forbidden Index for the past 50 years, and I guess in 2006 it was 70 years. That makes it 80 years now. And this is the preface to the American edition. The Vatican's Holocaust is not a misnomer, an accusation, or even less a speculation. It is an historical fact. Rabid nationalism and religious dogmatism were its two main ingredients. During the existence of Croatia as an independent Catholic state, over 700,000 men, women, and children perished. Many were executed, tortured, died of starvation, buried alive, or were burned to death. Hundreds were forced to become Catholic. Catholic padres ran concentration camps. Catholic priests were officers of the military corps which committed such atrocities. 700,000 in the total population of a few million. Proportionally, would be as if 1/3 of the USA population had been exterminated by Catholic militia. What has been gathered in this book will vindicate the veracity of these facts. Dates, names, places, as well as photos are there to prove them. They should become known to the American public, not to foster vindictiveness, but to warn them of the danger which racialism and sectarianism, when applied with religious intolerance, can bring to any contemporary nation, whether in Europe or in the New World. This work should be assessed without prejudice and as a lesson, but even more vital, as a warning for the future of Americans, beginning with that of the USA. And that's Avro Manhattan, 1986. And then an editor's note, which I find very revealing. An armed Serbia could have easily prevented this Holocaust. Thank God for the Second Amendment to the Constitution, which guarantees the right to bear arms. Freedom of religion and an armed citizenry go hand in hand, and is the only guarantee that this won't happen in the U.S. And another note, it is the Vatican, one world government, that doesn't want you to have the right to own arms or use any means to defend yourself. And is it any surprise then that the pimp, or I should say the Pope, no, he's a pimp, said that you're not Christian if you own a gun? Yeah, right. Yeah, he's a Satanist. He wants to murder everybody is what he wants to do. Anyways, this is the United Nations meditation room, and this is a YouTube video exposed Lucis Trust president speaks about Satan, Lucifer, and the UN, and the reason is that the CIA is actually an acronym for Cocaine Import Agency, and it was the CIA has been involved. I mean, the biggest drug dealer in the country. That's the reason I don't have any time for any sort of war on drugs, because really what you have is one group of drug dealers trying to put another group of drug dealers out of business. And so why bother, you know? Anyways, the United Nations meditation room is clearly an altar. The 10 backless benches are missing. Okay, they're not in the picture. They're behind the picture. There is 10 backless benches in there, according to if you look it up and read about it. And all churches are called non-governmental organizations. The publishing company for the United Nations is called Lucis Press, formerly called Lucifer Publishing Company, now called Lucis Trust. And go to their website, lucistrust.org, and see there we have the Lucis Trust president speaking, talking about all of that stuff. Anyways, there is no peace, saith my God, to the wicked, okay? Because they have seduced my people, saying peace, and there is no peace. That's Ezekiel 13:10. There'll be no peace as long as these Satanists are in power. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. So screw the UN. We need to get us out of the UN is what we need to do. And this is Jefferson's seal: rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. And now another little diversion. Check out my other videos: Bankster Thieves 1, 2, and 3, Churchianity Series, Bankrupt Corporate So-Called Governments, Bar Members 1, 2, and 3, Do-It-Yourself, How Not to Volunteer for the Selective Service, Martial Laws Here, Do-It-Yourself, No Income Tax, Do-It-Yourself, Estoppel Certificates. Everything is an illusion. Void Judgments, and Do-It-Yourself Kangaroo Courts 1 through 9. Anyway, so now we're going to talk about the Jesuit Oath. And because these Jesuits are tied in with the CIA, and it's a Jesuit school called Georgetown University that the CIA gets most of their people that work for them. It's located right there in Washington, D.C. So this is the Jesuit Oath. And the superior speaks, "My son, heretofore you have been taught to act the dissembler among Roman Catholics, to be a Roman Catholic, to be a spy even among your own brethren, to believe no man, to trust no man, among the reformers, to be a reformer, among the Huguenots, to be a Huguenot, among a Calvinist, to be a Calvinist, among other Protestants, generally to be a Protestant, and attaining their confidence to seek even to preach from their pulpits, and to denounce with all the vehemence of your nature our holy religion and the Pope, and even to descend so low as to become a Jew among Jews, that you might be enabled to gather together all information for the benefit of your order as a faithful soldier of the Pope." Okay, so they're saying that they're teaching them how to lie and steal and cheat and just do all sorts of things. Gee, that sounds like Satanism. "You have been taught to insidiously plant the seeds of jealousy and hatred between communities, provinces, states that were at peace, and incite them to deeds of blood, involving them in war with each other, and to create revolutions and civil wars in countries that were independent and prosperous." Gee, that sounds like what they're trying to do with us and Russia right now. "Cultivating the arts and the sciences and enjoying the blessings of peace." And that sounds like what they're doing with the news media and what they're doing with the manipulating the elections and all this stuff, to take sides with the combatants and to act secretly with your brother Jesuit who might be engaged on the other side, but openly opposed to that with which you might be connected, only that the church might be the gainer in the end, in the conditions fixed in the treaties for peace, and that the end justifies the means. This is all Satanism, okay? That's exactly what it is. "You have received all your instructions heretofore as a novice, a neophyte, and have served as coadjutor, confessor, and priest, but you have not yet been invested with all that is necessary to command in the army of Loyola in the service of the Pope. You must serve the proper time as an instrument and executioner, as directed by your superiors. For none can command here who has not consecrated his labors with the blood of the heretic." So they got to murder people. "For without the shedding of blood, no man can be saved. Therefore, to fit yourself for your work and make your own salvation sure, you will, in addition to your former oath of obedience to your order and allegiance to the Pope, repeat after me." Okay, so they have to murder people. And that's what they're saying right here. And this is the extreme oath of the Jesuits. "I, now in the presence of Almighty God, the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Blessed Michael the Archangel, the Blessed St. John the Baptist, the Holy Apostles St. Peter and St. Paul, and all the saints and sacred hosts of heaven, and to you, my ghostly father, the Superior General of the Society of Jesus, founded by St. Ignatius Loyola in the pontificate of Paul III, and continued to the present, do by the womb of the Virgin, the matrix of God, the rod of Jesus Christ, declare and swear that His Holiness the Pope is Christ's vice-regent and is the true and only head of the Catholic or Universal Church throughout the earth, and that by virtue of the keys of binding and loosing, giving His Holiness by my Savior Jesus Christ, He hath power to depose heretical kings, princes, states, commonwealths, and governments, all being illegal without His sacred confirmation, that they may safely be destroyed." And it's interesting that the Pope recently gave permission to make war on ISIS. Isn't that convenient? Isn't that interesting? Okay, and so this is what's going on, people. Anyways, it goes on. "Therefore, to the utmost of my power, I shall and will defend this doctrine of His Holiness's right and custom against all usurpers, of the heretical or Protestant authority, whatever, especially the Lutheran of Germany, Holland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and now pretended authority and churches of England and Scotland, and branches of the same now established in Ireland and on the continent of America and elsewhere, and all adherents in regard that they be usurped and heretical, opposing the sacred Mother Church of Rome, I do now renounce and disown any allegiance as due to any heretical king, prince, state, named Protestants or liberals, or obedience to any of the laws, magistrates, or officers. I do further declare that I will help, assist, and advise all or any of His Holiness's agents in any place wherever I shall be, in Switzerland, Germany, Holland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, England, Ireland, or America, or any other kingdom or territory I shall come to, and do my uttermost to extirpate the heretical Protestants or liberals' doctrines, and to destroy all their pretended powers, regal or otherwise. I do further promise and declare that I will have no opinion or will of my own, or any mental reservation whatever, even as a corpse or cadaver, but I will unhesitatingly obey each and every command that I may receive from my superiors in the militia of the Pope and of Jesus Christ. Okay, so they're an order follower, which is Satanism. I further promise and declare that I will, when opportunity present, make and wage relentless war, secretly and openly. Okay, so they're cowards. They'll do it secretly, against all heretics, Protestants, and liberals, and I am directed to extirpate and exterminate them from the face of the whole earth, and that I will spare neither age, sex, or condition, and that I will hang, waste, boil, flay, strangle, and bury alive these infamous heretics, rip up the stomachs and wombs of their women, and crush their infants' heads against the walls, in order to annihilate forever their inexorable race. That when the same cannot be done openly, I will secretly use the poison cup, the strangulating cord, the steel of the poniard, or the leaden bullet, regardless of the honor, rank, dignity, or authority of the person or persons, whatever may be their condition in life, either public or private, as I at any time may be directed so to do by any agent of the Pope or superior of the Brotherhood of the Holy Faith of the Society of Jesus. Okay, so they're talking about ways that they're going to kill people, and they're cowards, obviously, because they like doing it in secret. In confirmation of which, I hereby dedicate my life, my soul, my corporal powers, with all this dagger which I shall receive. I will subscribe my name written in my own blood in testimony thereof, and should I prove false or weaken in my determination, may my brethren and fellow soldiers of the militia of the Pope cut off my hands and my feet and my throat from ear to ear, my belly open, and sulfur burned therein, with all the punishment that can be inflicted upon me on earth, and my soul be tortured by demons in an eternal hell forever. All of which I do swear by the blessed Trinity and sacred sacraments, which I now to receive, to perform on my part to keep inviolable, and to call all the heavenly and glorious host of heaven to witness the blessed sacrament of the Eucharist, and witness the same further, that my name written, and with the point of this dagger dipped in my own blood, and sealed in the face of His holy covenant. And this is taken, by the way, from the book Subterranean Rome by Charles Didier, translated from French and published in New York in 1843. Dr. Alberto Rivera escaped from the Jesuit order in 1967, and he describes his Jesuit oath in exactly the same way as it appears in this book. The Jesuit oath of induction is also recorded in the Congressional Record. House Bill 1523, contested election case of Eugene C. Bonnewell against Thomas C. Butler, February 15, 1913, pages 3215 to 3216. And so, is there any doubt that these Satanists are Jesuits or satanic? And is there any doubt that the CIA is involved with these Satanists? Is there any doubt that they're serious? Is there any doubt that they have the will to carry out their satanic deeds? Is there any doubt that they're doing these sorts of things every day, and they're teaching others about their Satanism as well? Is there any doubt that bar members are satanic? See the bar members videos 1, 2, and 3. Georgetown University is one of many Jesuit-run universities around the world, and it's located in Washington, D.C., and I'll bet you, I don't know for a fact, but I'll bet you about 75% of the people that work there are graduates from Georgetown. I'll bet you. Anyways, this is an RT article vows in blood, branding with fire. Franciscan nun opens up about violence and torture in a convent. And this is 6th of January 2016. Again, this just goes to show that this is not unusual for these kinds of things to be going on with the Roman cult. Roman Catholic publications say the CIA is full of Catholics. History shows that the Catholic Roman cult has had a lot of influence in the founding of the CIA and still has a lot of influence to this day. I don't care if there are people of any particular religion involved in any institution, but when it comes to the Roman cult and the Jesuits, I mean then it starts getting pretty obvious what's going on. Georgetown University is a Jesuit-owned and operated university is located in the District of Columbia. Why are we surprised when the CIA is releasing false and fictitious information about Trump? Why are we surprised when the CIA is allied with the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service to create ISIS? Why are we surprised when the CIA is trying to start World War III? Roman cult equals warfare. Roman cult equals slavery. And then there's the treasonous government officials. Congressman Dennis Kucinich said on Fox recently that officials in the intelligence community were trying to sabotage the White House. There's private phone calls in the White House have been leaked to the media. And this is Kennedy said that there's a plot in this country to enslave every man, woman, and child. Before I leave this high and noble office, I intend to expose this plot. And that was 7 days before he was murdered. And JFK exposes ruthless conspiracy. And I'm sure people, anybody listening to this probably will remember this speech. We are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. That sounds like the Roman cult. That sounds like the Jesuits. And this is William Casey, CIA director. We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. And that's from the first staff meeting in 1981. The CIA owns every one of any significance in the major media. And that's, again, former CIA director William Colby. And then there's the Communist News Network, okay? They're obviously instruments of the CIA. I want to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds. Obviously, Kennedy, maybe that's why they killed him. Maybe that's one of the reasons. They that give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety, okay? So I think we need to get rid of the CIA, quite frankly. Roman cult equals warfare. Roman cult equals slavery. I think CIA is a satanic organization, and we need to get rid of it, abolish it. How much classified material really needs to be classified? Well, I mean, there's a lot of it. How much classified material is classified to keep government officials out of jail? It's amazing how they go and release stuff after 40 years when the people are dead. And there's false flag operations that are classified. There's lots of them. And there's 42 admitted false flag operations, and they always wait 40 years to release, to unclassify that stuff because then everybody's dead. All false flag operations need willing accomplices in the news media too. And although the FBI now admits that the 2001 anthrax attacks were carried out by one or more U.S. government scientists, a senior FBI official says that the FBI was actually told to blame the anthrax attacks on Al-Qaeda by White House officials. Okay, that's George Bush Jr. Remember, the anthrax letters look like government officials also confirmed that the White House tried to link the anthrax to Iraq as a justification for regime change in that country. And even to this day, you're supposed to put, when you go and send a letter through the post office, they make you say that there's nothing liquid, hazardous, or perishable. And so former Department of Justice lawyer John Yoo suggested in 2005 that the U.S. should go on an offense against Al-Qaeda, having our intelligence agencies create false terrorist organization. It would have its own websites, recruitment centers, training camps, fundraising operations. It could launch fake terrorist operations and claim credit for the real terrorist strikes. helping to sow confusion within al-Qaeda's ranks and causing operatives to doubt others' identities and to question the validity of the communications. U.S. intelligence officers are reporting that some of the insurgents in Iraq are using recent model Beretta 92 pistols. But the pistols seem to have had their serial numbers erased. The numbers do not appear to have been physically removed. The pistols seem to have come off a production line without any serial numbers. That's only something the government can do. Analysts suggest that the lack of serial numbers indicates that the weapons were intended for intelligence operations or terrorists with substantial government backing. Analysts speculate that these guns were probably from either Mossad or the CIA. Analysts speculate that agent provocateurs may be using that untraceable weapons, even as U.S. authorities use insurgent attacks against civilians as evidence of the illegitimacy of the resistance. And these are, again, this is all taken from this document right here, 42 admitted false flag attacks, dated February 9, 2015. Undercover Israeli soldiers admitted in 2005 to throwing stones at other Israeli soldiers so they could blame it on Palestinians as an excuse to crack down on peaceful protests by the Palestinians. Quebec police admitted in 2007 thugs carrying rocks to peaceful protests were actually undercover Quebec police officers. At G20 protests in London in 2009, a British member of Parliament saw plainclothes police officers attempting to incite the crowd to violence. Number 37, Egyptian politicians admitted and see this, that the government employees looted priceless museum artifacts in 2011 to try and discredit the protesters. In a Colombian 38, a Colombian army colonel has admitted that his unit murdered 57 civilians, then dressed them in uniforms and claimed they were rebels killed in combat. 39, the highly respected writer for the Telegraph, Ambrose Evans Pritchard, says that the head of Saudi intelligence, Prince Bandar, recently admitted that the Saudi government controls Chechen terrorists. I'll bet that endears them to the Russians. High-level American sources admitted that the Turkish government, a fellow NATO country, carried out the chemical weapons attacks blamed on the Syrian government, and high-ranking Turkish government admitted on tape plans to carry out attacks and blame it on the Syrian government. So all this stuff going on in Syria is just all a big false flag. The former Ukrainian security chief admits that the sniper attacks which started the Ukrainian coup were carried out in order to frame others. Britain's spy agency has admitted that it carries out digital false flag attacks on targets, framing people by writing offensive or unlawful material and blaming it on the target. In addition, 2/3 of the city of Rome burned down in a huge fire on July 19, 64 AD. The Roman people blamed the Emperor Nero for starting the fire. Some top Roman leaders, including the Roman consul Cassius Dio, as well as historians like Suetonius, agreed that Nero started the fire based largely on the fact that the Roman Senate had just rejected Nero's application to clear 300 acres in Rome so that he could build a palatial complex, and that the fire allowed him to build his complex. Regardless of who actually started the fire, Nero, in the face of public opinion, accusing him of arson, falsely blamed the Christians for starting the fire, and then rounded up and brutally tortured and murdered scores of Christians for something they likely didn't do. Why is that a surprise? Okay, these are Satanists. Okay, they're murderers, they're thieves, they're Satanists. We need to exterminate them is what we need to do. We didn't include this in the above list because if Nero did start the fire on purpose, he did it for his own reasons to build his palatial complex and not for geopolitical reasons benefiting his nation. Anyways, so if they're putting up offensive and unlawful material on the internet to frame people, what about bank account security breaches and IRS security breaches and other government security breaches? It seems like every day they're blaming North Korea or China or Iran for some government security breach. The business of the journalist is to destroy the truth, to lie outright, to pervert, to vilify, to fawn at the feet of mammon, to sell his country and his race for his daily bread. You know it and I know it, and what folly is this toasting an independent press? We are the tools and vassals of rich men behind the scenes. We are jumping jacks. We pull the strings. We dance. Our talents, our possibilities, and our lives are all the property of other men. We are intellectual prostitutes, and that's John Swinton, who lived from, 1830 to 1901, former chief of staff, New York Times. New York Times admits that virtually every major news organization allows the news to be censored by government officials. Why is that surprise? July 24th, 2012. And in one of the most shocking articles that the New York Times has ever put out, a New York Times reporter has openly admitted that virtually every major mainstream news organization allows governmental bureaucrats and campaign officials to censor his stories. And that was the 2012 election. They're sent by email from the Obama headquarters in Chicago to reporters who have interviewed campaign officials under one major condition. The press office has veto power over what statements can be quoted and attributed by name. Most reporters, desperate to pick the brains of President's top strategists, grudgingly agree. After the interviews, they review their notes, check their tape recorders, and send in the juiciest sound bites for review. The verdict from the campaign, an operation that prides itself on staying consistently on script, is often no. Barack Obama does not approve this message. What all of this means is that both the Obama campaign and the Romney campaign essentially have veto power over any quotes from those campaigns that we see in the newspapers. According to the New York Times, virtually every major news organization has agreed to submit their quotes for quote approval. And it's interesting that Donald Trump didn't do that. The top 6 colossal media giant towers all over all the rest, and much of the information in the chart below comes from media owners. The chart reveals how only a small fraction of media outlets that these 6 behemoths actually control. So Time Warner controls HBO, Time, Turner Broadcasting, Warner Brothers, Cartoon Network, TNT, TBS. These are the ones: Sports Illustrated, Fortune, People Magazine. Walt Disney controls ABC, Disney, ESPN, Disney Channel, A&E, Timeline, Buena Vista, Hollywood Records, Touchstone, Disney Pictures. Viacom controls Paramount Pictures, Comedy Central, Black BET, Country Music Television, MTV, Nickelodeon, Spike TV, the movie channel, VH1. News Corporation owns Dow Jones, the television, Fox TV, New York Post, Searchlight Pictures, Fox Business, Fox Everything. It owns 20th Century Fox, Star TV, Star World, Direct TV, Wall Street Journal. There's a bunch of them. Oh, I'm getting in close here now. And so, yeah, there's a bunch of them. So the point being, CBS owns CBS News, CBS Radio, Infinity Broadcasting. NBC owns CNBC, MSNBC, Sci-Fi, Weather Channel, NBC Universal Pictures. Please keep in mind that the above list is not exhaustive. Media corporations share members of the board of directors with a variety of other large corporations, including banks, investment companies, oil companies, healthcare, pharmaceutical companies, and technology companies. Anyone that believes that the mainstream media is independent and that it does not have an agenda is being delusional. Former Washington Post reporter Carl Bernstein has discovered that hundreds of American journalists have worked directly for the CIA. How convenient. You will notice that none of the major news organizations speak out against Big Brother police state control grid that is going in all around us. Instead, they insist that this added security will keep us safe even as our liberties and freedoms are being eroded. Yeah, right. You will notice that none of the major news organizations speak out against population control agenda of the global elite. Instead, they insist that more family planning will help the environment and make the world a more prosperous place for all of us. You will notice that none of the major news organizations speak out against the Federal Reserve, and none of them are warning us about a financial collapse that's rapidly approaching. Roman cult equals Romans equals warfare. Roman cult equals slavery. Necessity is the plea for every infringement of human freedom. It is the argument of tyrants. It is the creed of slaves. When injustice becomes law, then resistance becomes duty. For it is a truth that which experience of ages has attested that the people are always most in danger when the means of injuring their rights are in the possession of those of whom they entertain the least suspicion. I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. Roman cult equals warfare. Roman cult equals slavery. It is time to fire the CIA Satanists and their Roman cult handlers. Anyways, so that's the end of that one. We need to get rid of the CIA. We need to tell Donald Trump, and I'm sure Donald Trump will be more than happy to do that, but he needs to know that he's got some support behind him. So we need to get rid of the CIA. Let's get rid of the CIA. America has lots of intelligence gathering agencies. We need to get rid of the CIA. Anyways, thanks for watching, and have a real nice day.